The A-Train Station Plays page is really the heart of A-Train Station. This is where you're going to find the positive EV plays that you want to make and really prospect for the plays that you are considering for making bets on. And so there's a lot going on here. It's very powerful, but we get that it is complex and there's a lot to keep in mind. So what we do with the plays page, we have some criteria, some settings up here at the top, and then all the details that come in are here underneath. So what we can do is we can select from the market weightings or the sharp weightings. These are the standard weightings that we have in the weighting sets for A-Train Station, and you can create your own on the weightings page. That's covered in a separate video. We have the book sets that you can use. So I have two. I have the A-Train Plays, and I have ones that are especially for the live stream, which include a couple books that I don't normally play at. Many of you will only have one of these. Some of you might have different collections of books that you might want to use for different strategies. Again, the whole point of this is that it's flexible and allows you to do what you want to do with this tool set, and these kinds of settings make it fast for you to move between them. So you always think about, like, how am I going to set things up that when I have a betting session, things are going to be as fast as possible to execute on that betting session. And so that's really why we design it this way. We don't put a lot of frills in here, and we also don't put a lot of explanation in the user interface itself, because that just takes up space. So once you understand how it works, then you don't need all of that additional explanation all of the time, but causes a problem, right? Because you don't have all that information the first time you're learning it, right? So that's what we're doing with these videos. These videos are here to help walk you through and get you acclimated to what is going on these screens. So here, if you want to select market or sharp weightings or whatever other weightings you have, you can. And again, what you notice here is that I can click between these and nothing changes until I'm going to hit that apply screen. So keep in mind that when you do market or sharp, one thing to notice is that this number over here for minimum weighting is changing with my toggling of this. Nothing else is changing on the screen. These you can just move back and forth until you're ready. So you kind of go through this entire section, and then you're going to hit this apply screen, which is being covered by my video right now. So we can go in here and we can see, all right, I'm going to use sharp book weightings, which is kind of my preference. We're going to do A-Train Plays, which are the books that I can actually play at. These search criteria are removing a bunch of the props at books that limit me too much on props, as well as minor league baseball. Those are what I have set in my original settings page, and that's kind of my default all the time. But for now, I'm just going to remove those because you probably don't have any stored in yours until you've gotten used to it and said, oh, I know I never want to see these, and then you can remove it. But it's probably best to just keep it blank for now. And then you can always interact with this too. Like the ones that I had in there were coming from my settings page, but this search bar is really, really powerful. If you're looking for baseball, all you have to do is type in baseball and you can see, oh, only baseball plays are now on my list. Fine. If I do minus baseball, then I don't get any baseball plays. So right now we have a bunch of baseball, but that is if I remove it. So if we do that, we can group by game. So grouping by game basically decides whether or not we're going to have this as a header. I like to use this because I'm thinking about each game as an event that I am creating a betting strategy for. So I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to hide things that I've already bet, but you may want to turn those off for some reason or another. The minimum EV percent is going to be this here is the EV percentage. We'll cover what each of these columns mean in a moment. But this is basically saying only include in this list anything that's 1.5% EV or above with the strategy or with the weighting set that I'm using at the books that I can play at. So that's very useful there. The two-way, we're not going to go into too much detail, but this is basically saying if I'm playing both sides of this bet, like you would in an arbitrage, I want to have at least this much edge in doing it. So typically arbitrages are going to have a lot less edge than positive EV plays. So we generally default that to 0, but that's all we're going to talk about with two-way betting here. The sort functionality, again, sorts whether it's one-way or for two-way betting, if you want to go by that or by the best EV plays. So again, just a little bit of functionality, but it is less prominent and we don't use it that much. We are going to be having some new enhancements coming soon that are going to make that much more usable. So right now, it's just what it is. Now, what you're going to see typically as a default for the min-max odds, what this is the minimum or maximum. If you see one number, it means minus 250 to plus 250. It means I will only show plays that have odds available, technically no vig odds, in that range between minus 250 and plus 250. That's a fairly healthy range from fairly good heavy favorites to pretty big underdogs. You can do a minus one, say you wanted to have minus 150 on the favorite side, all the way up to plus 200 on the underdog side. You could do it that way, and you could type it in that way and have that. A lot of times I have nothing from that, and it'll just leave it wide open because I'm qualifying it other ways. I'm using width and hold percentage, which is the amount of hold that a sports book is going to get by offering two sides of a market. So you'll have minus 110 and minus 110 on a typical football play. You'll see that hold being what that book has in percentage terms or in terms of price. So you may have heard of width would be 20 for a minus 110 and minus 110 for a classic football spread market. That will be 20, which is fine at that range. But when you get into higher underdogs and favorites, that hold amount, when you use width instead, it starts to expand with bigger underdogs and favorites, and so it's less well calibrated for our purposes. So that's why we particularly are fond of hold percentage, and that's why we default it to 6.5. Now if you want to use width, all you have to do is not have a percentage. So you could do, I want at most 30 on the width. You could do that. So if you want to use width, you can just use the number and then you have that. If you want to use the hold percentage, you could do 6.5% or whatever percent you want. Sometimes I'll increase it to 7%, or if I'm looking at really interesting player props especially, or other game props, I might go up to 8% to see what's going on in the market. You can flex these. Keep in mind, this is kind of just where you're prospecting. And so you set all of this stuff and you do it in such a way that leads to a list of plays that you're interested in looking at more, right? You don't bet based on this. You just get a list of potential plays based on this. And that's really important to consider when you're using the play screen. This doesn't make your bets for you. It just gives you a list of things that you might want to consider. All right. Now, finally, on the right-hand side, I'm going to remove my head for a sec. Minimum weighting. What that means is that in the weighting set that I am using, in this case, the Sharp set, which in the Sharp set, we have currently 5 Sharp books. That is BetOnline, Bookmaker, Circa, Pinnacle, and Underdog. Those are our 5 books, each with a weighting of 1. So in that weighting of 1, we have 5 different books. Minimum weighting of 2 means I need at least 2 of those books. It's 2 points. And in the market view, you're going to have a lot more different points available. You're going to see this is where our weightings are. When I go to the market view, you'll see the minimum weighting of 8. When I hit apply here, we're going to see a lot higher numbers here versus when I'm just using the Sharp weightings. So keep that in mind. If I go here, let's go ahead and do it. If I hit apply, I'm going to see a market weighting, and this market weighting is going to pop in with much higher numbers than just 2 or 1 or 3. Now you see it's popped in, and we have Jeremy Pena. It's a 25, right? And so we'll cover all this in a moment, but like you'll see those numbers are higher. That's why here for the minimum weight, we have an 8 as the default for market. We're saying, hey, we want at least enough weighting points that there's some sort of market view. If you only had 1, that's not much of a market, is it? Right? So that's key to that. So let's go back to our Sharp, and we're going to hit apply, and we're going to go back, and we're going to see the numbers get much lower again. So these are our weightings numbers. Again, we'll cover that part in a sec. So again, the final number here is the maximum days. Now this is how many days that we're going to look into the future for potential plays. So in this case, we have a 7, which means a week out. You can also go down, the default is actually a 1, so that's within the next 24 hours. Or you can also go in here and you can set things like, I want only things in the next 12 hours, so I can do 0.5. Or I only want things in the next 6 hours, I can do 0.25. So you can see how this goes, and you can go as low as you want. Sometimes I'll go to 0.05 to get stuff that's coming up really soon, right? So that's the kind of thing that you might want to use to your advantage, and is an important functionality in this search criteria that you're just not going to see in any other tools like that. So let's go in, we're going to hit apply with a minimum weight of 2. And we're going to look at the next round of details. So it's loading up now, and there's running a whole bunch of calculations on the back end. But once you get to this page, now you're going to see it, and you can still interact. So if I go in here and say, I don't want to have any tennis, I can just say minus tennis. So you see that tennis play went out. If I only want tennis, then I just remove the minus, Now I have a tennis play, right? And if I want to see everything, I just remove that. And so it's really useful when you're looking for particular kinds of plays. Or if you just wanted, without having to go back and change your book weightings, if I say, oh, I only want to see FanDuel plays, FanDuel, boom, FanDuel, right? And so like that's really powerful to interact with. So I highly encourage you to experiment with it. The speed of it, it's just a wonderful thing to use. All right, so let's go through what this means. So this is the header of the information. You'll see the league information here. If you see something like this $50 means I have $50 of bets on this game already, right? Nothing, this particular play has nothing to do with it, but I have some money on that game already. You see 11 results and 9 events. Sometimes these numbers will be a little bit different than what you see because of additional criteria you might have already into the search criteria. So we have that. Let's go, and this is the time of the game. All the times in a train station, all of the times are normalized to whatever your computer time is. So you can trust this is the time where you are as long as your computer time is right. So that is true of all times you should see in a train station. Okay, now there's a reset hidden button behind here. If you want to see hide all or these X's, these are all joined functionality. So this reset hidden, hide all, or the X. If I hit X, I'm going to hide that play. If we see 2 X's here and I want to hide both of them, I'm going to hide all, and that entire game goes away. If I want to undo it all, I can hit this reset hidden, and you're going to see those pop back in, although it is going to load the page from scratch. So things may change because you are reloading from scratch. So that comes in, clears out anything that I've hidden. And these are really useful as you're going through a list of plays. These X's and the hide alls, you can do that so that you don't lose your spot. The other thing is that when you click on this to go look at the details, when you go to the bet detail screen, you'll notice that the background changes color. So that's another way to keep track of what you've looked at and what you haven't. Again, if you reset this page, that's going to have the same background again. All right, so this is, let's go to this next line. So this is the EV percentage that's been calculated based on your current weighting set. This is the recommended wager size. Now, you'll see some colors on this occasionally. I don't know if I have any here, but on this, you'll see colors. If it's yellow, it means you have a related play. It could be on the same player. It could be on the same nature of like a totals or a spread bet, but at a different number for that particular event. If it's orange, you have exactly this play already. So you're not going to see that on here when I have hide already bet. But if I remove that, we might see one pop in for some of these events. So we can do that. If it's red, it means we have the exact opposite of what's being recommended now. So this may be worth hedging. It may be worth evaluating whether or not your existing play has a whole lot of CLV, not enough CLV, whatever. So it may introduce why you might want to make adjustments to your portfolio of bets that you have in that particular day. This is the book name. So this is the location that the best play is found. You may see additional book names in the list for other EV plays at different prices, or you might see them combined. So that's something on our roadmap where that's going to get combined at some point. So you might see that instead. The player prop is the nature, the type of market that the play is. This, as we discussed previously, is how many weightings points this particular play has in its sharpness. So in this Gunnar Henderson, we have a 2. It has 2 points for weighting. So when we go to that detail screen, you'll see that that 2 point is the weightings. Now, you may ask yourself, what's up with the colors? There's some that have green, there's some that have these blue outlines. Well, this is when you see the blue outline, it means, like in this case of Gunnar Henderson, that we have a bet online line. So that blue means bet online is offering some sort of odds in that, because you may say, well, bet online is very good at particular kinds of things. We want to know when bet online is offering line. You can see that in that case. If it doesn't have any, it doesn't have bet online, or the green means pinnacle. So in this case, like Aaron Judge total bases, this is going to have a pinnacle line, but not a bet online two-way line. So this is actually a good example, because BetOnline has a line being offered, but it's only one side. We can't use that as a sharp book because we don't know what the offsetting is, so we can't calculate a no-vig odds range for it. So we basically just don't treat it as a sharp book in this particular market, though if you were playing at BetOnline, in this case, you would see a potential for EV. So green means pinnacle, blue outline means BetOnline, white means other sharp books. Okay, and that's true no matter what weighting set that you're using. Okay, going further, this is all the bet details information, and then what you're going to see is two numbers here. One is the odds that you're going to be able to make this play at this sportsbook. So these are the odds that you're keying off of. This is the no-vig odds. Now, if I go here for the Gunnar Henderson, I want to show you no-vig odds for Gunnar Henderson plus 228. What you'll see here is the 228 is actually, so it's a great example because Gunnar Henderson hits over is now at plus 231. So you see what happened there? I was looking for 228. Well, the underlying information is now changed. Plus 231 are the no-vig odds. 231 is what we see here. So it's just going to round that down. It's not rounding to the nearest. So 231 is going to match what that is for the worst case DVIG range. So if you don't know what worst case DVIGing is, we have videos that cover that separately. But it's always going to use the reference back here in this page of what the no-vig range is that we're calculating this on. Now you see 19 points above this no-vig odds. So the fact that it went from 228 to 231, fairly nominal given how big this edge is. 6.21% is the lowest hold from a sharp book in that market. So you can see here, again, it's just giving us some details from that bet details screen that are useful to us in the context of figuring out, okay, what are the things that we want to look at? So you might say, oh, wow, this one here for this tennis play at Bet Whale is really interesting. It's only got a 3.2% hold. You got 10 points over the no-vig odds. This is something that I might want to look at. So you can see all that information just from this line. And because that's the thing, you're not going to go through most of the time and just play everything blindly. You're going to be looking at different factors with it and saying, okay, what do I want to play here? And so that's the kind of thing that we're doing. And like this one, when you click into the bet detail screen, you can say, oh, wow, we've got arbitrage. We've got a lot going on. The hold's really low from our sharp books. There's good alignment. This is probably something I'm actually going to go play. So that's the kind of thing that I'd be doing with this. So if you see that, this is a whole bunch of information, and it's taken us a good, 15 plus minutes just to walk through at the highest level what's going on. There's a couple other things that I just want to note on this page versus any of the others is that you're going to note too, like here we're going to see market or sharp, and this is where you can kind of select these before you hit apply and go through it. But once you've hit apply, up in the upper right hand corner, even if I've selected market and A-Train plays here, I can see up at the right, it's sharp in A-Train place because I haven't refreshed this. So if let's select market and live stream, if I hit apply now, we're going to go in and you're going to see these up here are going to change to market and live stream once that page fully populates again. And the reason that is that we need to have a reference that when we look at something, we know which weighting set and which book set were being used to calculate this. Because if you go to this other page where we haven't reloaded this, what you'll notice if I move my face again, it still says sharp and A-Train plays because we had loaded this one over here. It says market and live stream. This I haven't reloaded yet, but if I reload it now, what you're going to see is now it's updated to market and live stream. All this data is different. See how much that changed? So when we have that market and live stream, it's important for us to note what it is because we know that there's other pages that are going to be relying on that information that we've selected here in the play screen. Again, this is complicated stuff, but once you start working with it, hopefully this will help you get acclimated and start to understand what's going on. So here's a situation because we're now on the market view where you can see where there's some related plays, Mitchell Parker strikeouts. You can see more different things coming in. And again, all above that 1.5% calculated EV. But some of these have a lot more depth of market than others. And that's why you might want to be careful if you see something that is 17 here. It's a fairly deep market, but when I'm down to towards like 9 here with no pinnacle, no bet online, it's just in this case a bunch of donkeys. That's something that you're going to want to note on this page and be like, I don't know that that's the case. You might want to move that minimum weight up to 12. You could do things like that. So again, this tool is designed to be flexible and transparent and give you all of this context around any play that you're looking at a level that no one else does. Nothing comes close to providing this level of information this quickly for the kinds of betting that you're going to be doing. So with that, that's what we wanted to cover in this video. Hopefully this helps you understand the play screen better. And if you have questions or comments, let us know, and we will continue to revise these videos as we enhance the product over time. Thank you.